All right, we're starting. So welcome everyone. Today is September 27th, 2018 for the Helm Public Dev Call. How the format goes for anyone that's not familiar and hasn't been here before. We start off by giving any announcements for the last week or going into the next week or whatever. And then we go into stand-ups for anyone who is a core maintainer of the projects, as well as the charts maintainer for the charts project. And then we can go into any discussions for the week, and then we finish off with assignments. So with that, do we have any announcements? I have one, which is the release, but. Nope, okay. So this last week we released, or yesterday actually, we released Helm 2.11. It's officially out, so go and play around with it. It's available for you to test. So there is that. With that, if there's nothing else, then let's go into stand-ups. Adam, you seem a little chipper this morning. Why don't you go?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll try to tone it down. So last week I was on vacation, so not too much to report. I did work a little bit more on some of the Helm 3 stuff, and also got going on Kubernetes 1.12, since that should be released here pretty soon. So I'll just get that finished up as soon as that releases out. I think I'm pretty close to getting all the imports updated. Go Farina.
I'm still working on getting some of the cluster stuff up and going for supporting and getting the hub going. That's still experiencing some delays. Let's see, chart testing. We published a blog post on chart testing that talked about how you can use it yourself in addition to us using it on the community charts. There were a number of things that I just started spinning up while we were in the initial governance phase and everything was hard. And so I'm in the process of bringing all of that under the Helm fold with Helm bots and things like that rather than my own, because we now have lazy consensus, which means getting everybody to vote is not that big of a thing. And I guess the other announcement is, I want to say it's, and I should have said this, tomorrow is the last day for nominations and acceptance in the upcoming election for the Helm org maintainers. Tomorrow's the last day for that. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what I've been poking on with Helm. Let's see, we'll push it off to Butcher.
So I have been working on mainly stuff having to do with the provenance and crypto stuff. On the Helm 2 side, I've dug around in an issue until I discovered what was breaking for people's GNU PG instances. And the answer was that they changed the format of their keyring files, so you can't use GNU PG keyrings anymore, which was kind of a bummer. But so I've been working on that kind of stuff a little bit, and then working on some forthcoming blog posts for the Helm blog, and then just trying to stay on top of various Helm 3 sorts of things. I think that's it for me. Brian, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I've been this past week trying to get the Lua implementation passing against the specification conformance test suite, and I ran into some issues around basically snapshotting values to or up values in Lua to implement closures, but I think I ironed that out last night, and I just reran the tests, and things seem to be working as designed, which is good. So I've been doing that this week, and I'm going to be continuing on with that, and hopefully just wrapping up the Lua implementation in the next few weeks. Who's on here? I'll pass it back to you, Fisher, because I can't really tell who hasn't gone.
I believe the only other Oh, Justin's here, and then as well Adnan. So Justin?
Hey guys. I just did a little issue triage this week. Closed a few issues, or helped people close a few issues. And that's about it for me. Anon?
Hey, yeah, I've been working on Monocular mostly. I think we're almost ready to release the 1.0, which is great. Most of the work around that is done now. And also figuring out the move for some of the components that we're using there now. So right now it's still pointing to images from the Cube Apps repo on Docker Hub. So I want to move those to, I guess, the Quay account that we have. And yeah, and move that into the Helm org basically. So I'll work with you, Matt Farino, on and once you have the cluster up, we can work on getting that deployed there.
Great.
And that's all.
And in terms of, oh, sorry, someone speaking up?
Oh, I was just asking, is that everyone? I think you haven't gone, Fisher, right?
I have not gone yet. But the only thing that I've been working on has been just going through the Helm 2.11 release, making sure that the release candidates have been going through smoothly, trying to catch any patches that have been missing and anything through that. To be honest, it's been kind of like it's been going straight into the 2.10 release and straight into 2.11, so I'm hoping to have just a few days to relax and to take a look back at what's going on in the issue queue, but not necessarily anything majorly pressing. The only thing that I see, what Matt Butcher you're mentioning actually, is the homebrew problem for Helm 2.11. Maybe we can talk that as a discussion topic, but before we get to that, is there anybody else that's not a core contributor that wants to give like a little stand up or talk about something?
Sure. Because I actually said it before we started the meeting, but my team over at SUSE is actually working on a Helm mirror like utility that we can use. And I know this came up before on the call, so I just wanted to throw out my 2 cents that this is actually a feature that people would love to have.
Sweet, it'd be great to demo that.
Sorry, I was trying to drop, it's the Google link. I was trying to drop a little link to the Azure Container Registry team released their implementation of a Helm chart, which is available on ACR. So I just wanted to drop that as well, because that happened in the last week for anyone who missed that. Okay, so now we can go into discussion. So the one thing to talk about is the homebrew problem for Helm 2.11. Matt Farina, do you have any update on that? I know you were working on it a little bit yesterday.
Sure, it's all fixed and merged. So what happened was, in the latest version of OS X that was just released like a week ago, Homebrew is building packages, and the tip of master on Glide had a fix in it that was not in a release for this problem. And so the Glide package in Homebrew was actually importing a patch that fixed it, and so that's why we haven't encountered this before. And then for whatever reason, in the latest version of OS X, the patch wasn't being applied when it built it. No idea why, but if the patch was there, we wouldn't have encountered the error, and it's not why it was there before. So I created just a release of Glide. It's version 0.13.2 with the bug fix in it. I got that up in Homebrew, and that went in, and then that meant Helm now passed, and so Helm went in, and all that happened yesterday evening.
Okay, so now you can do a brew install Kubernetes Helm, and you'll actually get version 2.11.
Yeah, that was merged last night.
Okay, sweet. So we can go ahead and close that issue then, probably.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking a look into that.
No problem.
Is there any other discussion lists, or are we?
There's 3 items. There were 2 other items in the notes.
Sorry, I'm not looking at the
The discussion, yeah.
Okay, So there is, I guess Butcher is gone at this point, but there was a discussion topic on the KubeCon Seattle Helm Talk coordination.
Yeah, he wanted to look into just talking about the different items that were on the schedule and maybe coordinating. Right now, if you search for Helm in the schedule, which was just released, there are 3 talks. There is a tutorial deploying Windows apps with Draft, Helm, and Kubernetes by a couple of folks at Microsoft. There's my intro to Helm, which is one of the guaranteed ones for Helm. And then there is the deep dive on Helm that Butcher and Adam have. So those are kind of the 3 talks that I'm aware of that explicitly have Helm in the title. Looking at the schedule, I have found some other ones though. Like Reddit is going to talk about their story of getting into Kubernetes. And as we all know, that involves Helm. Other than that, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what all of the talks are. Some of this might take a little bit more digging in to know what's going on, but Helm only explicitly shows up in the schedule 3 times. And we can track all those. But if we can find more, it's probably a good idea to point people at them. And so now I can speak to 4.
Okay, so the action item is kind of to figure out what talks that we're all giving and then just kind of compile a list to give people an idea on what we're doing? Or
I don't know. This was Butcher's item. I'm just kind of filling in.
Okay. Okay, we'll probably try and circle back with him offline and see if we can circle back on that.
And we should probably start a HackMD just to kind of start tracking these things.
Okay.
So we know which ones are probably going to be, which explicitly are Helm related or are likely to be Helm related, like the Reddit one. If we could just maybe start keeping a list of those somewhere, that's probably useful so we can point people to Helm related stuff and have a list.
Okay.
Are we going to do a birds of a feather or any kind of meetup at KubeCon?
We might be able to. Birds of a feather are explicit in the schedule, and we don't have one listed.
Gotcha. Or some ad hoc thing.
Yeah.
The deep dive would be, I guess, like an unconference style meetup for us.
I think we were going to talk, Matt and Adam, you want to talk about Helm 3 in the deep dive? Is that it? And the deep dive and intro.
That's what the focus is. It's all Helm 3 internals and stuff.
Yeah. And the deep dive and intro are each 35 minutes long. So they're not that long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a shame.
Mm-hmm. All right, we can circle back and try and track more of these. Maybe highlight some more general sessions that are on it too, so we can talk about them.
Okay. Then the last discussion topic on here is the chart caching, using it, and content addressability. I think we talked about this last week or the week before, but Rena, do you want to give some more color on that discussion as well?
Yeah, so I dug into this a little bit about caching, and there's a link to an issue in there. If you look at the current cache, it just kind of caches a chart with its ID, basically the tar gzip file in there, but that doesn't work across multiple repositories to use that as a real cache. So right now, Helm downloads the chart every time it's got to do something with it from a repository, but the cache doesn't work because if you have the same chart with the same name and different version in different orgs and they're different, you can't identify that in the cache, right? And unfortunately, Helm repositories, we don't have a way to enforce immutability, and we don't check for it. So somebody could actually change something too when you don't want it. So my proposal on this is actually to look into using the digest is the cache key, because that's a SHA-256, right? And so we could have the cache somehow incorporate the digest, so we could actually look and have a guarantee on that, okay, here it is, this is actually the one that's there that we should be using, and then use that to install from, so we don't have to fetch stuff all the time from repositories.
I think that would be quite fair. And then even if you consider, if someone, say, forks a chart or fetches a chart down but doesn't change the chart and just pushes it up to a new repository, then when you fetch it down a second time, you would have that content in your cache, and we could just do that immutable, or we could do that digest check
Exactly. It's basically making things content addressable. And if you look at something like Docker Hub or things like that, where they're dealing with much larger images, right? If the same person pushes the same image up 10 different times, its ID is actually a SHA-256, right? So they only have to store it once. So for them, it's like, oh, already here, just new metadata on this user and name, but we already have that image because they can track it. And that's how you do parents and things like that, because SHA-256 we haven't had collision problems with. And so we could use a SHA-256 digest here. And then if you've got the same thing in 3 repositories, it's kind of like pushing images around. Our cache only has to have it once.
We actually had a pretty similar issue with caching in the chart syncing in Cube Apps, and so right now we're kind of caching by version and chart name and repo name, but yeah, that has the issue where if you, I think someone was trying to repush a chart with the same version and name in the same repo, and then they weren't getting their updated README. So our solution was also to go and change that to using digest as well.
Do we think that this might be a good discussion as well towards Helm 3 and the repository discussion? I think digests are a good approach overall for content addressability, especially when dealing with assets. So is this potentially not something not just relevant to Helm 2, but could it be relevant to the discussions that are ongoing for Helm 3 and for repository storage?
As far as, well, because Helm is not a dynamic repository or anything, I'm not sure. I've filed an issue against Chart Museum to use that for its storage key, so you only store it once. So to at least throw it over there and get the discussion going. Other than that, I'm not sure, because it's already part of the spec, right? So where else, and maybe I very likely could be missing something here, but is there another place we could see to use this that would benefit in the interfaces? Now in the back ends, like caching and things like that, and long-term storage and dynamic repositories, that I could see doing that. Like if Azure said, you know, now we only have to store a chart once across all these things because we're using this, that's great. That's a back-end way of using this. But I'm not sure about within the interfaces. So if somebody has ideas, I'm totally open to hearing it. I'd love to know. One of the things that I was also, by the way, one of the things that's in this note is there's the HTTP request header of if none match. There might be some way where we can look at that and then get a 304 as well around something. I haven't dug too much into it, but I'd like to start using more if none matches and e-tags to see about pulling less stuff across the wire and being more performant, because it's much faster to get a 304 than to download even an index file. I'd love to do this with the index files. If the index file hasn't changed, then we don't need to get a new one and download the couple of megs, right? We could just get a 304 in a matter of bytes, and it's much faster round trip. There's lots of ways we could start doing that, but I'm not, if folks have ideas, please, I'm all ears.
Awesome. I think that about covers it. So I think the action item there is that we agree that going towards content addressability for the cache would be a good approach for Helm 2. I'm just trying to think what would be good to put down in the notes here.
Yep.
Okay. If that's all for discussion items, then I think we can go to assignments then.
I have something really quick.
Okay.
I noticed in the issue queue that I'll paste it over here. Someone came soliciting some kind of doc search improvement to our docs website. So since it was someone offering to do work, free work, I thought, I would draw some attention to it. I'm you know, don't really have the horse in the race other than wanting to make Helm better, but just.
Actually, thank you. I intended to bounce back and read or discuss about, yes, if they wanted to go and improve the search service or search experience, then any kind of contribution would be very helpful. So definitely have to take a look into doc search and whatnot.
Okay, maybe we can keep.
Mm-hmm. But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, there's also some outstanding issue somewhere about us migrating our docs out of the Helm repo into a separate docs repo and then building a site off of that with search, maybe using something like Gitbook, or there's a couple others. And that conversation, I think, went on hold because we said, ooh, we're in Markdown today. Should we use ASCII doc? Because some folks really like ASCII doc, has little warnings and notes and all that stuff that you can put in there. And it kind of devolved into that. We might want to reopen that when some folks have time to dig into the docs more and cleaning it up.
Fair enough. And the answer is no, we want Markdown.
Before this devolves into a flame war between ASCII doc and Markdown, do we have anything else?
I didn't grab the action item for the homebrew Helm problem. Was there one? Just to put down in the notes.
The homebrew one, I think, Farina, you already fixed that, right?
It's fixed. Everything's merged, and the latest Kubernetes Helm you can get through Homebrew right now.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Who wants to be moderator for next week? Adam? Thank you for your service. Notes? Take notes. And issue Sherpa for the next week.
I can probably do about as much as I did this week. Wasn't a ton, but sure.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Sure.
Fisher, did you say you were going to take notes next week?
Yes.
Cool.
All right. And with that, we've got 3 minutes left. So thanks, everyone, for coming along, and have a good day.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks. See you.
Good one.